India, in its growth journey, will have to focus more on internal markets. Like it will, the growth will have to be more internal focus. Like we have to produce for Indians. We can't be, India cannot be producing for Americans.
I think in general, I do not like thinking about them in this sort of manner of substitutes. I think both. We have a very large domestic market. If you take basically the GDP, GDP is comprised of consumption, investment, government spending, and net exports, right? Consumption accounts for about 58% of overall GDP. So domestic consumption is a very important part of. But I think it is also important. Exports actually have spillover benefits because when firms produce for exports, then you have to continuously improve your productivity, and that helps the domestic economy as well. So I don't think we need to think about these as basically as sort of either or. It is more complements. I think India should definitely produce for its domestic economy, but also at the same time, exports are important as well. If you look at, as a percentage of global exports, India's share is not very large. So there is significant potential to grow that. I think your broader point about, inflation being potentially higher, I think there is a case. Of course, other commentators who may potentially disagree, but both from the real economy side and from the financial side. The real economy, as you said, onshoring, and therefore some of the cost advantages necessarily not being there will, potentially contribute to inflation. But at the same time, also keep in mind the debt-to-GDP ratio, right? And the fact that overall, unless there is enough surplus that is produced, let's say, right, there may be debt-to-GDP ratio may not stabilize. That's another aspect that has to be kept in mind. So these are parts that will also start playing. But as I said, actually, I have been very conservative in assuming inflation to be what it has been in the past at 2%. So these are potentially other aspects. In fact, even I would add, for instance, as India will slowly but surely move towards more capital account convertibility, and as India will be, its energy needs will be fulfilled far more from renewables. Therefore, the dependence on crude oil, which is basically the biggest contributor to our trade deficit and our current account deficit, those will also actually increase. So many of these could be potential tailwinds, which I have not taken into account. But at the same time, there could be some headwinds as well. Maybe future pandemics, maybe future global uncertainty, geopolitical uncertainty, those could be headwinds as well. So whenever one is doing a projection, one can only actually use history to predict. But these are some of these sort of discontinuities that we need to keep in mind, both positive and negative, that may contribute.